Welcome to the Elevate Your Brand podcast, where we help online coaches learn how to elevate their brand, become the experts in their industries so they can bring in more clients and create a life they want. I am your host, Chris Anderson. And if you want to make a difference in the lives of others, share this episode, go over to Apple Podcasts and follow us there to leave a positive rating and review. And together we can leave a bigger positive mark on the world. How to connect with the top 1%ers in the world. So if you're wondering out there, I've got a podcast. How do I connect with these really awesome guests? If I've got a business, how do I connect with these top dogs out there in the marketplace? Well, this episode is going to be right up your alley. You're going to be excited for this one because today we have Travis Chappell on the show today, and he is all about that. He has had guests. He's connected with people with the likes of Grant Cardone, John Maxwell, Molly Bloom, Trent Shelton, and a lot more. John Lee Dumas, I think he's been connected to. And so a lot of great people he's been able to connect with, and he shares his strategy with how to do that. And that's what we're going to dive in today.
Hey, dude, what's up? Thanks for having me, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Super excited for you to be here and get to dive into this, because I think it's a big topic, especially in podcasting and entrepreneurship, is how do we connect, with those people we look up to, the people that are our mentors or quote unquote idols or whatever it may be. So, would love to hear kind of just high level people. I mean, definitely go check out his website for travischappell.com for more about him and his story, but high level, like what got you to starting Guestio and being able to connect with these top percenters?
Yeah, Guestio kind of came from working with a bunch of clients in our coaching business and our course business. So we when the podcast started going well, we had people that were running businesses reaching out and being like, hey, how did you interview this person? How did you get in front of this person? How did you build a successful show? How did you do this? How did you do that? So we started putting together trainings and stuff and started coaching people. And when my plate kind of got full with coaching, we decided, hey, let's do it and do this course and community and membership and all this other stuff. And so we started building out all these things, and then started realizing that like most people had the same problems, which were like, I don't know how to connect with good quality guests, and I don't know how to get myself booked on good quality shows to promote, my own show or my own offers. So how did you do those things? And the real answer is it takes a ton of time, ton of persistence, honestly. And I'm not even saying that it's like people aren't willing to put in the time or whatever. It was like, it took a lot of time. And so a lot of people just don't have that much time especially if you're running a successful business or you are doing other things. At the time, I didn't have any kids. I was doing door-to-door sales to make money, so I could do that in like 20 hours a week. But the other like 15, 20 hours a week was dedicated mostly to like guest reach out and going to events and getting like connections through this introduction and that introduction. Like it was a lot of persistence and a lot of work. And frankly, a lot of people just don't have the time to do it. So we're like, well, why don't we build a solution for that? And that's kind of how Guestio came about. It's a guest and show booking marketplace. You can go there, toggle the button and look for guests, or toggle the button and look for shows. And you can like pitch all those people, or you can pay them directly to come on your show or to go on their show. And so we built that out of a direct necessity from all the people that kept telling us that, they needed the same thing.
And that's a good point too there. One, it's an amazing platform, super simple to use. So if you guys haven't checked out, make sure you check it out, guestio.com. And, but with that, you mentioned paying for guests, and that kind of, I hear a lot of people kind of taboo. They're like, oh, I don't want to pay. I would never charge. And I've said it. I mean, I was like, I'll probably never charge, but you've got to think these people's time, how much it's actually worth, and what they're actually asking for is nominal compared to that. Right. So how do you kind of battle that? Be like, I don't want to pay for guests. I don't want to pay to be on our show.
Yeah. It's it was honestly more pushback than I was expecting when I started it.
Okay.
There was a lot more kind of taboo things in the space. Part of it is just kind of like education around it a little bit more, and just like asking people questions, like, and whenever anybody says to me, like, hey, I would never pay for a guest, I'm just like, okay, are you planning on doing any sort of events or anything like that in the future? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, okay, do you plan on paying speakers to speak at your events? And they're like, oh, I see. It's like, it's the same thing. Like you're paying a speaking fee so that person knows that you're not going to waste their time. Mm-hmm. We call it, it's a fast pass. It's a skip the line fee. It's not like you're not bribing people to come on your show. It's just like, hey, you have a ton of reach outs. You have limited time. Mm-hmm. I want to incentivize you to say yes to my request over all the other people that are requesting you.
Yeah.
Just like a speaking fee, except for it's way cheaper than a speaking fee because they don't have to fly out, do it in person. You don't have to pay for jet fuel and stuff like that to get to the event. They do it on Zoom in their underpants if they want to. You know what I mean? So that's that side of the marketplace. The other side of the marketplace, I was like, look, people are already paying to get on shows. That's been happening for years. There's dozens, if not hundreds, of guest booking agencies that will go get you booked on shows. And so if you're a podcaster, you are very familiar with these because you probably have like 4 dozen pitches in your inbox right now from people that are trying to get their clients booked on your show. And so on that side, for me, it made complete sense. It made total sense. So now when I have podcasters that are like, well, I would never charge somebody to be on my show. And it's like, you understand, like my question at that point, again, I just try to ask questions that get them to come to the conclusion themselves. Like my question at that point is, have you ever accepted a guest from a guest booking agency? And almost every time it's a yes. We've accepted guests from that. It's like, well, I got news for you. Like you're already doing pay to play. It's just that you're not getting paid to play. The agency is getting paid. And the agency, the only thing that podcast booking agencies are selling is your audience as a podcaster. That's their product. Their product is your audience. They find clients who want to get in front of that audience because that client wants to sell something. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. They're doing it because they have a book coming out or they have an offer they want to sell. They have a SaaS product. They have a company. Like they want to draw attention to something and they know that being a guest on podcasts is a great way to do that. And so they pay these agencies money, real money, by the way, to go get them booked on podcasts that have taken the time, effort, energy, and investment to build and maintain an audience, which is not easy. And so I knew that as a podcaster because my show we've been doing for almost 5 years. We have 800 episodes. And I was just frankly getting tired of some of the agencies that would like push back when I would say like, hey, we have like literally 38 requests for these 3 spots. We can't say yes to all of them. If you'd like, you can wait in line or you can pay $1,000 or $500 or something like that. And we'll bring them on the show next week. And they would always be met with this like, almost like aggressive attitude where it was like, oh, we're only doing earned media. You know, we don't have, you know, we're not paying for anything. And it's like, well, but you're getting paid for it. Like you're getting paid to sell my audience to your client. So you're going to make money. Your client's going to come on my show, sell my audience on things that they want to sell them. So your client's going to make money. And me, the podcaster who's taken the time, effort, energy, the years of hard work, diligence, and persistence to build and maintain an audience, I get paid $0 on the transaction. And like your pitch is that, well, my guest is just so good. And it's like, I got news for you. There's no shortage of good guests.
Right.
There is only a shortage of good shows. That's why every podcast host I talk to is like, yeah, I have 37 requests sitting in my inbox right now because like there's only like there's 3 million podcasts in existence. 500,000 to 700,000 somewhere in there are active.
Right.
Then you cut out half of them because they're solo shows, and you cut out another half because they only release one every 3 months. And then and then you know you cut out another 80% because they're all in different genres that don't have your ideal audience. Like there's only a few thousand shows that a single person can get booked on, but now anybody that can do business online can benefit from getting booked on podcasts. So that's millions of people that want to get booked on these like few thousand opportunities. Like the guests are no longer scarce. They're in abundance, and the shows are what's scarce. And so like if somebody's going to get paid for selling their audience to somebody, I believe it should be the person that built the audience. And so that's kind of the whole premise that we've gone off. And that's why we're, you know, going on a bunch of podcasts recently to talk about this. Cause it's like, we just want people to be aware that like, look, we're not trying to get you to put a price so that, again, it's not a bribe for you to bring on a crappy guest. That is absolutely not what it is. If you look at the people that are pitching and booking, especially if they come from us in our agency, like they're really great guests that you probably would have taken on for free. The difference is that we're just sharing some of the money that we charge our guests to do like agency work for. We share that with the podcasters because we believe that they should be the ones getting paid. We think we should get paid for like building the list, making the connection, and like determining what's quality and what's not quality. So we take some of it, but then the person that has the audience, I think, should also be getting paid. So we want to give them some of it. And so like when you think about it from that perspective, it's like, man, this is already happening. These people want to get in front of my audience because they want to sell something, not because they just want to add value and be helpful. And it's like, that's always the pitch because they know that's what's going to resonate the most. But ultimately, they have something to sell, or else they wouldn't be paying somebody to get them booked on shows. They wouldn't waste their time or money. Right. So like I said, I just think that if anybody's getting paid in that transaction, the podcaster should be kind of chief among them.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great explanation, and it makes 100% of sense. I mean, yeah, they always have, they're always want to, and I always give at the end, like, chance to share, like, because I know they have a program or a book or things like that, and so it makes complete sense. Why not? And we're not like, I'm not going to go out myself asking thousands of dollars to be on my show yet.
Sure, and you're not going to pitch people to do it, right? This is what I tell people is like, if you're reaching out, don't charge. If you're getting pitched, do charge. You know what I mean? Like that's the difference. Everybody's like, well, when should I charge? When should I not charge? You're telling me that I should be willing to pay for guests, but then I should also be charging. Like, obviously I can't pay for a guest and then also charge the guest. That doesn't make any sense. Like, if it's inbound coming to you, you charge. If it's outbound, you don't charge. Like, if anybody like reaches out to me, I had this guy reach out to me, made me fill out this like 45-minute Google form. And then at the end of the Google form, it like makes you select a donation to come on the show.
Okay.
And I was like, wait, what? You reached out to me. I have no idea who you are. You made me do like a pre-call or pre-interview. You make me fill out a 45-minute form, and you make me pay to get in front of your like 3 listeners. Like, this is not how you reach out to a guest,
Yeah.
So that's what I tell people. You're pitching, no fee. If it's inbound, charge something, because then that helps you. Like, if you're not the one reaching out, then the onus is on them. The ball's in their court. It's not in yours. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't feel bad if you have to say no to some of those people.
Yeah.
And if you can use that dollar amount as just like a buffer to tell which ones are more serious, but you still know that they're a good guest, then why not be able to make a little bit of money from all the energy that you're putting into creating your show? Because I know how much energy goes into that. I mean, look at your freaking studio set behind you. You know what I mean? Like, people put in so much work, and then they don't ever get paid anything on it. But all these other people are all making money off of it, except for the person that did all the work. So I was just like, look, don't, like, the number one misconception is that it's a bribe to bring on like some scam artist. You know what I mean? Like, if they're like some douchebag scam artist, you can just say no, even if they're offering you $500. Just be like, hey, I don't think that this is a good fit.
Yep.
No, it's as simple as that. And then like somebody else comes on, they're going to pay $500 and they're a best-selling author and they fit the, they fit the leadership thing or whatever your podcast is about. Like, great. Okay, cool. We'll bring you on, and we'll even give you a preference on when your episode goes out, and we'll let you kind of cut the line in that regard, because you're willing to pay us a little bit of money to share our audience with you. And we appreciate that. Like, a lot of these people are willing to pay it, man. It's just that most people don't know they can charge it.
And they don't ask, they don't even try, That's huge too. So it makes sense. And it's important to understand that too. And I like how you said, like, if you're reaching out, you're seeking them. So not pay, but if they're reaching out to you, or if you have people pitching you, then yeah, why not? Like, we've been lucky with people reaching out, having guests. And so it's helped us fill, and we've been scheduled out some great guests, but I think we're at that step too. What you're saying, if people are reaching out to, say, hey, yeah, would love to, they're a great fit. Here's and so my thought was to send a like a Calendly link for them to schedule their spot, but make it one that's has to be paid. Is that a good way to do it? Or
yeah, you can do it that way. I think a lot of people use Guestio just because it's like third-party validation. True. And it's like all gone through a system. So we have a lot of people that will just take their Guestio show link and they'll send it to people who apply to be on their show. And then they're like, if they pay, and we'll schedule it. If they don't pay, then like, we're not worried about it, because I have 3 months of content already batched and ready to go, which is, I'm sure, where you are and so many other podcasters are. Because like, it's so funny, man. You talk to people at the beginning and they're worried about, like, well, what if I can't find enough guests
in a week? Yeah,
it's
I know.
Just trust me on this one. It's going to be okay. You know?
Yeah. And that's a great point with the Guestio too. Yeah. Because even on there, if someone applies for your show and says that they're willing to pay, you could still, like you said, decline and say it's not a good fit, and everyone's all good on there. So
exactly.
Okay.
Yep. You do not have to say yes if they pay. You just say no. And with Guestio, if you say no and they've already paid, it gets refunded.
Yep. And so, but with that, so if, maybe these individuals that someone wants on their show aren't on Guestio yet, and they're going to do the reaching out as the host, how do you guide people in that? What are some good ways to reach out to those top people?
Yeah. You gotta kind of be omnipresent. Like everybody just kind of goes to email.
Okay.
And I saw the most success on Instagram DMs.
Okay.
If you're you try to use the platform that you have the biggest credibility on. That's why I always use Instagram, because it was like, I knew if they checked out my profile, they're going to see like some good credibility pieces and authority pieces that make them go, okay, this guy's legit. Whereas like Twitter, I don't really do much on Twitter.
Right. Yeah.
But also reach out on Twitter though, if they spend more time on Twitter. Like I'm pretty platform agnostic when it comes to like reach out. It's like what gives me the highest chance of success.
Yeah.
And then also paying to be in masterminds, paying to go to live events, going places in person, meeting people, connecting people, adding value, asking for intros. Like there's so many other things that you can do if you're really trying to level up the people that you're talking to on the show.
Yeah, for sure. And with that, I've had some bad ones, poor ones reach out to me, and it's like directly like down my throat kind of pitch, and
yeah, yep.
That doesn't work, right?
No.
It doesn't for me, at least, or towards me if they're doing it towards me. So
yeah, no, it's difficult to land it from a cold pitch.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we say that. That's why we offer the payment. A cold pitch sounds so much better with a little money behind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if not, like that, it's just a differentiation point, man. That's all that matters. When you're reaching out people, you have to find, how do I make a difference? How do I stand out from the other people that are reaching out? Because that people are reaching out constantly. And depending on the size of the person, they probably have a gatekeeper, if not multiple gatekeepers, that prevent all of the chaff from making it up to the top level. You have to figure out, how do I make it through this labyrinth of gatekeepers to get to the person that can actually say yes to this opportunity?
You love listening to podcasts, but have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Maybe you want to build a brand, grow your business, or are looking for an excuse to talk about your favorite hobby. Whatever your reason for making a podcast, Buzzsprout is the place to start. Since 2009, Buzzsprout has helped over 300,000 people launch their own podcasts. Buzzsprout walks you step by step through the whole process and will give you powerful tools to start, grow, and monetize your podcast. Ready to get started? Click the link in the show notes to get our free step-by-step guide to starting your podcast today.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's important. And I think just being real too, and like not being pushy, and like, you add value or make it about them. I think that's still important for sure, even with the gatekeepers.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like, especially at live events, dude, I see this happen all the time. And it's like a networking sin. I need to put together like a little like networking sins playbook or something.
Yes.
But one thing that I see people do all the time is, there's someone will speak at an event or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a line of 50 people that are like trying to talk to this person, grab a picture, and then move on.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible almost to make a real impression on somebody in a long line of people when they're taking photo op type pictures, where it's like, take a picture, shake their hand, move on.
Yeah.
But a lot of times there'll be at least one, maybe two or three people that are on that person's team that are standing around that line waiting for them to be done and like fielding text messages and stuff like that. I will always go to those people way more than I'll go to the other person. Like, I'll skip the line. I don't even need to take a picture with that person, because I know there's a 0% chance of them remembering me later.
Right.
But the assistant, I can talk to during the entire time that these 50 people are going in line, because nobody else is interested in talking to the assistant. So I sit there, I create a great relationship with them. I get an email from somebody that I know will actually respond to me and remember me. And my chances of being able to get in front of the other person are significantly higher at that point, because I added value to somebody who actually makes decisions in their inner circle.
Yeah.
And so, that's one of those things I see people do like wrong all the time.
Yeah, that's huge. That's a great tip right there. If that's all anyone took from listening to this, I think could be amazing for them getting in a lot of different circles and in the door to a lot of different people, because that's crucial. Getting through those gatekeepers, connecting with them, making relationships there. And
we'll send them gifts. We'll send them thank yous. We'll like I want to befriend all the gatekeepers. I want them to be like, oh yay, Travis emailed me, instead of like, ugh, this person that's trying to this person is trying to interview my boss, like keeps hitting me up all the time, and it's really annoying,
Yeah. How do you walk that line with sending gifts and thank yous to the gatekeepers? Like, because, in some corporate areas I've talked to, some CEOs in the corporate 5,000, it becomes possible. You have to walk a line of bribery, obviously in those settings.
Sure.
How do you do that with the gatekeepers? Is there a protocol you follow, or?
Yeah, it's got to be super intentional.
Okay.
You like sending a gift basket or something like that isn't going to move the needle for you, very much. It just has to be just like, I would say, just start with a thank you card.
Mm.
Something physical in the mail that you can send and be like, hey, it was great chatting with you. Thanks for taking the time. I know that you're super busy. I would always empathize a little bit because my wife was an executive assistant for a long time. So I would always like kind of pull that up and be like, look, I know how much work goes into this. My wife's an executive assistant. And I just want to say that I appreciate you because I think that your position is a really underrated position. You know what I mean? And just reach out, once a month, once every 2 or 3 months. You see them at another event, go say what's up, cultivate the relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And, it could be even a good idea, keep just like a little booklet of who you've met and maybe just a couple things about them that you learned.
Yeah, no,
So
that's very true. That's actually honestly something I haven't done very well with until recently. I was like, why have I not been doing this for the last like 4 freaking years? I was at an event and somebody's like, yeah, this person I know that like they have like 30,000 contacts in their phone. And the crazy thing is they remember information about them. I was like, wait, how? And he's like, oh, when he meets them after they have the conversation, as soon as he leaves, he just puts some notes in the notes in the contact. And I was like, duh. Like, what the hell have I been doing? Like, that's so it's so now every time I add contacts in, I'll be like, where did I meet them? Did we talk about anything specific? So that when I bring it up, it's not just like, who is that person again? I know I recognize the name. I see their profile picture on Facebook, but like, what do they do? Where did I meet them? How do we know each other? It's so much like everybody just wants to be seen, heard, loved, respected.
Yep.
Everybody.
Yep. For sure.
You know what I mean? And so if you can just help do that and remembering their name, remembering their kid's name, remembering what they do, remembering how you met, like those types of things are like, oh, like, Travis has a lot going on. That's crazy that he remembered all those things.
Yeah. And I think that's super important. Being personable, building that relationship and just being real with them, I think means a lot because like you said, they get thrown so much at them. So many people, just trying to break down the door. And so I think that's going to be something just, and it, like you said, it takes time. It's not going to just happen. But with that too, like I'm wondering, when you're doing this, how do you make yourself we don't want to lie, obviously, but how do you show your credibility? Maybe you are kind of newer into your field, into your podcast show. What's a good way that you found to show credibility besides just what you're posting? Or is that kind of the only thing you guide people to do?
Yeah, the biggest thing for me was always doing the obnoxious name dropping thing. Like the key to getting people to say yes, especially to a podcast interview, is you have to get them to make the decision without further research.
Okay.
If you just reach out and there's no reason for them to do business with you in the reach out message, then you've just given them homework, which if they're strapped for time, and they probably are, that's already annoying to them. That's why a lot of messages get ignored. Yep. Right. That's why you never hear back a lot of times. Cause it's not like they're doing it intentionally. It's just like, I got to do some research on that. But also I'm about to hop on this call and then I have a call right after that and a call after that and a call after that. And then I got to get on a plane and then I'm doing this other thing. I got to finish that project. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it just gets so on the bottom of their priority list that it just never gets responded to. And it's not because they're a jerk. It's just, they literally don't have the time.
It's true.
And so if they're just checking messages real quick and they're trying to clear their inbox, you got to think about it from their perspective. You got to have some empathy and think about it from their perspective, which is really difficult to do, by the way. Like when I was first starting, I wasn't strapped for time. I had time. You know what I mean? Like, so it's more difficult to understand. It's like, man, that person's ignoring me. What a jerk, And it's like, now that I'm on the other side of like, nowhere near where, the level of the people that I've been able to talk to, but I'm just really, really busy now. I got 2 kids. I got like 2 different businesses. I have 2 different podcasts. Like I just got a lot of stuff going on. And I have so much more empathy now for the people that I'm reaching out to. And I'm like, I literally am not trying to ignore you. I promise. It's just, I read it. And then I knew that I had to do another thing about it, but I didn't have time to do it then. And then my life happened and it's now been 8 months and I'm so sorry I ignored that. I did not mean to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So you have to give a lot of emails of, hey, thanks for your patience.
Yeah, right. You got to give them the information necessary to make the decision right then, or else the odds of winning that interview are going to go down significantly. So
Yeah.
what I started doing is I just name dropped as many people as I possibly could that I knew that they knew, like, trusted, or had done business with in some sense.
Okay.
So especially like when I was doing a lot of reach out on Instagram, I would just go to that person's Instagram profile and look at all the people that they followed that I already interviewed. And
Okay.
even if it was like 28 names, bro, I would drop like all of the names. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
like I want them to know.
Yeah.
You know, like if they look at two names, it's like, okay, maybe not. And the fact is, like it's safer in volume because you don't know if they don't even like those two people. Maybe they follow them, but they had a bad business thing. You know what I mean? So they have them like, you know, restricted, but they didn't want to unfollow them and cause drama. You know, like you don't know what's happening in the background.
True.
So like I'm like, hey, here's 18 people that I've interviewed that you follow. That I know that you've like shared the stage with, or you've been on their stage, they've been on your stage, you guys have done business and been podcasts or whatever, you know, like, and trust that person to a certain extent. And when they see that laundry list of names, they're like, look, if like they just automatically assume that the other person did all the vetting that needs to be done. And so like, because they're in their messages to make decisions and clear them, it's an easier yes for them to be like, all right, yeah, sure, let's do it.
Yeah. That's good. That's a good point because, you know, sometimes, at least in my mind, I'm like, you know, do I really want to name drop? Like even on like social proof on like business things, like still in the back of my head, like, do I really need, but it's helpful with that.
Even if people are like, hey, that's annoying, even those people still have respect for it, whether it's conscious or subconscious. There's something in psychology called the law of association tendency, which is the tendency for us to associate things with things that we see them around. And so like, is it kind of obnoxious? It's like, yeah, it is kind of obnoxious. But like, if you watch any of my ads, a lot of them aren't about me. It's about like, hey, I've interviewed Shaquille O'Neal, I've interviewed Rob Dyrdek, I've interviewed Molly Bloom, I've interviewed John Maxwell, Grant Cardone, all these other people. And then I've been on this show.
Yeah.
You know, so they don't know who I am. By the time they're finished watching the ad, they're like, oh, well, I don't know. I've never heard of this guy before, but apparently everybody that I follow in this freaking world knows this guy somehow. So I should probably give him a chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
Even if that's happening on a subconscious level where they're not even aware that it's happening, and their initial reaction is like, oh, this guy's some like, you know, braggadocious douchebag. It's like, well, at the end of the day, like if you're not going to brag on yourself, who's going to brag on yourself?
Exactly.
Like you have to be able to market the accomplishments that you've had, especially if you're selling people on the idea that you created. So for us, it's like we help people get booked on shows and we help people get big name guests on their show. If I'm not out there being like, hey, I'm not just like throwing ideas at you. Like the things that I'm teaching you are exactly the things that I did to accomplish all of this. And here's the proof of that. Like if I don't have that as a part of it, it's very difficult to get people to trust you if they've never heard of you before.
For sure. So with that, I'm interested, who is your first kind of breakthrough guest or big guest that you had that you feel like was one of your first big guests, I guess?
Yeah. So John Lee Dumas was one of the biggest, was like the first one. But that one, I had paid to go to a mastermind at his house in Puerto Rico. So like, I felt pretty good about my chances about getting that one. You know, there's only like 5 of us there and it was like $6,500 for a weekend. So I was like, feel pretty good about my chances on this one. The first one that I remember being like, I can't believe I'm actually doing this right now was Grant Cardone. Because it was so early on in my podcasting journey. And frankly, like he should not have come on my show. Like I was like 7 months in, we didn't have that many downloads. But I had interviewed so many of his friends that he said yes to the interview. I did that thing. I dropped like 12 names, including his own wife, that all had been on my show. And I was like, when can we get you booked? And I told him I was like, I'll be in Miami next week. Why don't I just come by the studio? We'll get it done. And he was like, cool, text my assistant. And I was like, all he said. And so after he said that, I booked my flight from Miami.
Yes.
because I wasn't going to be there.
Yeah.
I wanted to be as easy as possible for somebody to say yes. Because at that point it's like, oh, like we don't have to worry about logistics. And are we doing Zoom? We're doing it in person. We don't have to worry about all these other questions that people always have to ask or get taken care of. It's like, here's all the people that I've interviewed that you already know, like, and trust. I'm going to take, I'm going to do a good job with your time. You can trust that I'm going to deliver a good interview. So you're not wasting your time with me. And then secondly, I'm going to be in Miami. So you don't have to think about logistics. You don't think about any of that. All I'm going to do is like, let you know when I'm there. You know what I mean? And we'll set it up. And so it ended up happening. And that was one of the first ones where I because I had followed him for a long time. I was in door-to-door sales before I got into podcasting. And so I was in some of like taking, reading some of his books and doing some of his sales trainings and stuff like that. So him and Gary Vee were like two of the first people that I ever followed. And so getting to interview Grant was like, especially, during the time where his brand was really exploding and a lot of people wanted some of his time, was like cool. I can't believe I got my foot in the door here, you know?
That's awesome. Did you bring all your equipment down there with you, or did you just
No,
use his studio and they
we used
they
his
used the
studio.
recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We used his studio. Yep.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Yep.
That's neat. And it just shows like persistency and, making it simple on them. Now, with that too, if you're reaching out to these bigger named guests, is it better to say, hey, when do you have availability? Or, hey, I'm available in this day, or sending them a scheduling link, which is preferred,
Yeah, I do
amongst
both.
those?
I do
Okay.
both. I'll just like whatever's easier for them. And I
Okay.
actually say that in the email or the reach out, just like whatever's easier for you. You feel free to book here or
Okay.
reply back with some times, and my assistant will book it in.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah. What I just say, whatever's easier for you.
Yeah.
Use this, whatever's easier, we'll make it happen.
Okay. Yeah, definitely keeping it simple is
Right.
I think key for them. So this has been good. So I guess, like you said, you've interviewed, and what's your favorite show you've been on, or what was like your kind of,
So one of my favorite interviews that I did was on Born to Impact, just
Okay.
frankly because of how long we talked. It was Joel Marion. He's a big in the direct response role. He's got a 20 million person email list, massive affiliate marketer, just exited his supplement company that he built off of the back of that for multiple 9 figures.
Wow.
And he's the organizer of the 100 million mastermind, which one of the masterminds that I'm in, that's like 100K ahead. And
Wow.
so when I met Joel first, I went to his house in Tampa, and we recorded an interview for my show and an interview for his show. I think that interview on his show is like 2 hours, and we talk a ton about like practical, tactical networking strategies and stuff like that. It was just a solid episode. And then the other one would probably be Bigger Pockets, just because that was a dream of mine too. I always wanted to be on Bigger Pockets. I listened to them a good amount, and they're a massive show. So like that was one that I had done at that point like 100 interviews or something, and I was like pretty nervous for that one when I showed up to the interview.
Awesome.
I was like, I really hope I can deliver value on this, because like I'm in, I felt like I was out of my league on that interview, but ended up going really well.
That's awesome. With the one down in Tampa, did you guys record one episode? I know you said you did for both shows, but was it one recording and you both used that, or did you do 2 separate conversations?
2 separate conversations.
Okay. So you did box out.
Okay. We were there for like, I was at his house for like 5-6 hours.
Oh, wow.
And we did like 2 hours on his show, 2 hours on my show, and then just like talked about a few things. And then that's when he pitched me on the mastermind for the first time. And I was like, not a chance in hell. Like that's $100,000. No, thank you.
Yeah.
And then I ended up joining it like 3 months later.
That's awesome. Cool. So any dream guests that you have not been able to interview yet, or been on their show yet, that you're in the works, you're trying to communicate with?
Yeah, interestingly enough, I've never interviewed Gary Vaynerchuk.
Okay.
He's been kind of elusive for me. I haven't given it a shot in a long time, but because like after I interviewed Shaq, like that was like the pinnacle for me, because he was literally a childhood hero, bro. Like jerseys awesome. And I wish and all everything.
I wish Kobe was still around. That'd be a great one.
Yeah, he was on my list, dude. He was on my list. Goes to show you what waiting does.
Yep. Yeah.
Kobe was on my list. Bob Saget was on my list. Yeah, a few people like that where it's like, oh man, like you can't.
The Rock is on my list.
The Rock's on my list for sure.
That'd be legit.
He's
and
incredible.
Gary Vee and The Rock, they're regular listeners. So guys, reach out
Gary
to
Vee,
Travis.
Rock, yeah.
Reach out to Travis. But that's cool. No, I think it's neat to have that kind of list of like, okay, who would be next, and just kind of quote unquote the chase of it. Yeah, I think it's exciting.
Yeah, you have the list, man, because then how do you know where you're going? Like
right.
Shaq was on my list for like almost 5 years. But like when I got to check that one off, it was like, wow, I can't believe that happened. And like every time you check another one off, it's just another vote of confidence in your ability to go get more of these people to say yes.
Absolutely.
It's like,
so true.
Wow. Didn't think I was going to make that happen, but it did happen. So what else is possible that I used to think was impossible?
Definitely. And it's cool as well as you're interviewing these people, like it's so valuable too, because you learn so much, and it opens up the door just a little bit to more possibilities, just because, especially if you make a good impression and good connection with them. And
exactly.
Do you foster any of those relationships with guests?
I try. I do my best to try.
Any of them respond to you? I mean, regularly or kind of regularly that you've had?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, a good amount. It just depends on that person and where they're at in their journey and stuff like that. It's always like, it's always surprising to me with the people, like some people that are just like willing to take a ton of time and help me out, but like turn into some of my biggest mentors or have been guests on my show, that I've just stayed in contact with and have been willing to like jump on a 20-minute call and help me with some problem in my business or, whatever, something, stuff like that. There's a lot of people that I haven't been able to stay in touch with, but there's a lot of people that I have been able to stay in touch with.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's impossible to keep in touch with everybody, I think, because
Yeah.
some people just aren't your people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like you can try to stay in touch, but at the end of the day, like if they're not, resonating with you or whatever, like maybe they just don't like what you stand for. Or they don't like your brand that much or something. It's like, well, that's why I interviewed so many people that way. You know what I mean? Like coming up at 800 episodes. It's like, well, I had a lot to choose from.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're coming up on, I think, like 175 or something like that.
Nice, man.
With the show.
Congrats.
Thank you.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's been fun and, grown a lot since the beginning, but I appreciate this topic. This is a good one because I'm looking, I've been, reaching out to different individuals. So
Yeah.
I learned from this episode myself, guys. So I hope everyone else has, but kind of to wrap things up, Travis, on this show that, it's all about understanding how you're created, with a purpose and potential to leave positive mark in the world with what we're doing. And so for you, when everything is said and done for you here on earth, what do you hope your positive mark is?
For me, I just I want a lot of people at my funeral. Like I just want to have made an impact that was bigger than just like me and my immediate connections.
Mm-hmm.
I'll finish up with this story and we can conclude there. Was actually crazy. It's 5 years ago, like over 5 years ago now, where my father-in-law ended up passing away, and he was 53, so really young, and it was pretty unexpected. We found out he was sick on like January 3rd, and then on the 13th he passed. So it was a very small window for us to be able to like, cope with or understand what was even happening and stuff like that. And so not this is not to like say anything negative about him because he was a great guy, but I just remember at his like on his deathbed and his funeral, just weren't that many people that came by. And again, this isn't to say anything bad about him. He was a great dad to my wife, and I appreciate him and loved him. But he just lived his life the way that most people live their lives, which is just I do my job, I'm with my family, I know a few people, and that's it. Yeah. And I remember sitting there thinking like, man, like if I was on my deathbed, like I want to line up a hospital of people who are like telling my kids stories about something that impacted them, that helped them change their life or helped them figure something out or helped them escape a problem or avoid some pain or make something happen for themselves. Like I want a group of, I want a bigger impact than just the people around me. Like most people have. And so for me, that's one of my biggest whys. That was really the why for me before I had my kids. Like my kids, I think when you have kids, they immediately they replace whatever you used to work for.
Yeah.
But that's definitely one of mine, is like creating something that lasts beyond my time on earth and impacts more people than I ever thought possible. Is how I want to go out, how I want to be remembered.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. I think that's awesome to just, want that mark to ripple out. And it doesn't have to be something that, like you could, have all these impacts that you didn't even know, and then they show up. Yeah. And that's a neat thing to think about, like just doing the best you can to leave that mark. And hopefully, a lot of people are touched by it.
Yeah.
Indirectly. So, well, Travis, man, I appreciate you being on here and sharing, these tips and guidance with connecting with the top 1% of people out there who a lot of people would love to have on shows and interview and be on their shows. So a lot of great information. I appreciate your time. And anything else you want to guide people to, or where people could connect with you before we head out?
Yeah, I'll just say if you're a podcaster or you're a guest that wants to get booked on podcasts, guestio.com, guestio.com. You can over there. You can create a free account. You can do a lot on there for free. You can be free forever if you want to. Or a pro account's $97 a month. You get 50 pitches, and you can go out and pitch a bunch of guests, pitch a bunch of shows. It's a really great place to connect with some high quality people to do some exchanges, whether it's on the guest side or the show side. So guestio.com is the place to go find that.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, definitely get checking that out if you have a podcast or you're wanting to be on shows. It's like I said, it's a great platform, super simple to use. So again, Travis, thanks so much. And thanks so much for tuning into this episode today. If you found value at all from this episode, please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It just helps us get this show, these messages out in front of more people. And don't forget to share this with someone who you think could benefit from listening to as well.